The Galactic Council Hall was a place of wonder. Its ceiling stretched higher than any building on any world, a vast dome of crystal-clear glass that reflected the stars in every direction. Beams of light from distant suns danced across the polished floors, giving the impression that the room itself floated in space. For thousands of years, this hall had been the meeting place for leaders from every corner of the galaxy. Each world sent its representative, and together they debated, planned, and made decisions that affected countless planets and billions of lives. But today, as every day for the past century, one seat remained empty. It was at the far end of the table, crafted from pale silver, gleaming softly in the starlight. The seat had a small blue and green emblem etched into its back, a simple symbol that represented Earth. For most delegates, it was a reminder, a warning, a story whispered in quiet tones. No one dared sit there. The council chamber was filled with delegates of all shapes and sizes. Some were tall, with skin like liquid gold that shimmered as they moved. Others were short, with translucent wings that fluttered lightly in the hall's gentle air currents. There were beings made of crystal, whose forms sang softly when they shifted, and creatures who moved like shadows, barely disturbing the air at all. Every species had its own customs, its own way of speaking, but all shared a deep respect for the traditions of the council. Yet the empty seat stood untouched. "You see it every day," whispered one young delegate from the planet Thrall to her companion, "and every day I wonder why it is still empty." Her friend, a wiry being with long silver tendrils, shook his head. "Do you not know the stories?" he asked. "Of what happened the last time a human sat there?" The young delegate's eyes widened. "Stories? I thought they were only legends." "They are real," the silver-tentacled being said, his voice low. "I was not alive then, but my elders spoke of it many times. They say humans are different. Their words, their courage, their quiet strength. It changed the galaxy in a single meeting." At that moment, the hall fell silent as the Chancellor of the Council entered. His presence was commanding, though he was no larger than most of the other delegates. His deep blue skin reflected the starlight as he moved, and his many eyes surveyed the room carefully. When he paused before the empty seat, even the young delegates felt a chill. The Chancellor raised his hands, and the chatter died completely. "Today," he said, "we meet as we always do. But let us remember that some seats carry stories heavier than words." The delegates nodded. Every being in the hall understood. The seat of Earth was not just a chair. It was a symbol, a reminder of what humanity had done and what it could do again. Across the galaxy, Earth was almost forgotten by most worlds. Its cities were few, its colonies rare. For a century, humans had been quiet, retreating from the eyes of other civilizations. Some claimed that Earth had been too weak to join the galaxy's Grand Council. Others said humanity had chosen isolation. But the truth was far more remarkable. Humans were patient. Humans were careful. And humans, when they acted, reminded everyone why they had once been feared and respected in equal measure. The story went like this. 100 years ago, a human ambassador had walked into this same hall. Other species had expected arrogance or fear or hesitation, but the human had been calm, quiet even. When disputes erupted, when debates threatened to become endless, the human did not shout or demand. Instead, they spoke with clarity and honesty, appealing to fairness, compassion, and the shared good of all beings. Within hours, centuries of disagreement had begun to dissolve. Alliances were reforged, old grudges forgiven, and decisions made that preserved peace for generations. It was not brute force that had done this, not clever trickery. It was something the galaxy had rarely seen, human courage and human wisdom. Ever since the seat had remained empty, the galaxy needed to remember the lesson of that day, and some even now feared it. The young Thralian delegate could feel the weight of history pressing down, even from across the room. She glanced at the empty chair and tried to imagine what it would be like to sit there, to have all eyes upon her, all expectation resting on her shoulders. The thought made her pulse quicken. Humans were small, she had heard. Fragile even, but the stories said otherwise. Somehow they had changed everything without striking a blow. A sudden sound broke her thoughts. The hum of communication crystals filled the room. Messages from worlds across the galaxy arrived, some urgent, some trivial, all demanding attention. Delegates leaned forward, whispering to aides, scanning data streams. Yet no one touched the empty seat. Its presence seemed to hush the chatter, as if it were absorbing the noise and reminding everyone of a single truth. Humans were not ordinary. Outside the council hall, in the vast corridors of the orbiting space station, whispers spread like starlight. "The humans are coming back," one delegate murmured. "I heard a signal near the Orion fringe. Could it be them?" Others laughed softly, nervous laughter that betrayed uncertainty. "It is impossible. Earth has been silent for a century. Perhaps it is a mistake or a signal from one of the colonies. Humans never travel this far anymore." Still, attention lingered, subtle but undeniable. The empty seat had a presence of its own. Those who passed it could feel it, a quiet reminder of past lessons, past victories, and past wisdom. In the chamber, the Chancellor spoke again. "Let this seat remind us," he said, voice echoing off the walls, "that courage does not always shout, strength does not always show, and wisdom sometimes arrives quietly at the right moment when it is most needed." Some delegates shifted uneasily. They had not experienced that moment themselves, but the stories were enough. They had seen the humans on holo recordings, spoken to those who had met them long ago, and every story ended the same way. Earth's presence changed everything. Not by dominance, not by force, but by the quiet brilliance of its people. The young Thralian delegate leaned closer to her friend. "Do you think humans will ever return?" she whispered, her companion's silver tendrils twitched. "I do not know," he said. "But if they do, the galaxy will not be the same again." Hours passed. Discussions were held, decisions were debated. Delegates argued about trade routes, environmental protocols, and diplomatic treaties. But every so often a glance drifted to the empty seat. Eyes lingered almost unconsciously. No one spoke about it, yet everyone felt it. By the time the meeting ended, the sun of a nearby star had shifted across the station's glass roof. Delegates filed out, leaving the chamber nearly empty, the only sound the soft echo of their footsteps on polished floors. And still, the seat remained empty, shining quietly under the starlight. Outside, in the blackness of space, a faint signal blinked across sensors in the far reaches of the galaxy. A signal that was unmistakably human. For the first time in a century, the whispers began again. "They are coming back." No one knew what would happen when Earth returned. No one dared guess. But one thing was certain. When humans finally took their seat at the council again, the galaxy would never be the same. And as the stars glittered above the council hall, the empty chair seemed to wait patiently, quietly, and with purpose, ready for the day when history would once again remember what humans were capable of. It was not a seat of power. It was a seat of responsibility, and for all who knew the stories, it was the single most important place in the galaxy. For years, the galaxy had watched in awe as the Zorkai Dominion crushed every enemy that stood in its path. They were known as the Invincible Fleet, a war machine that had conquered 164 worlds without a single defeat. Planets burned, empires fell, and resistance crumbled wherever their silver ships appeared. Their strategy was perfect, their technology unmatched, and their pride unshakable. Then they made a mistake. They set their eyes on Earth. Earth was small, backward, and still recovering from its own wars. To the Zorkai, it was supposed to be an easy victory, a simple step to control the Sol system and claim its valuable resources. But they didn't understand what humans were. They didn't understand how far humans would go when cornered. In the deep command chamber of the Zorkai flagship Voron's Glory, Admiral Zeltar stood before a giant holographic display. Earth glowed faintly in the center, a blue marble surrounded by satellites and space debris. His officers whispered confidently, their sharp scales reflecting the cold light. "Primitive planet," one hissed. "Limited space travel. Weak defenses. It will fall before dusk." Zeltar nodded slowly. He had heard similar words before every campaign. Still, something about this blue world unsettled him. It was the same unease that had haunted him since their victory over the Andari rebellion, a strange silence after every conquest. "Begin the invasion," he ordered finally. "Let us make Earth the 165th victory of the Dominion." The command center came alive with motion. Dozens of ships moved into formation, their engines flaring like suns. In orbit, satellites blinked out one by one as the Zorkai disabled them. But deep on Earth, humanity was not blind. At the United Earth Defense Command in Geneva, alarms blared. The satellite feed showed an approaching armada, massive ships appearing out of hyperspace like storm clouds. General Marcus Hale stared at the screen, his hands tightening on the table. "We've got unknown vessels entering high orbit," a young officer reported. No response to Hale's. "Power readings are off the charts." Marcus took a deep breath. "Alert every major defense network. Prepare the orbital cannons and missile silos. Get me the International Space Fleet now." Humanity's fleet was nothing compared to the mighty empires of the stars. It consisted of old station-based weapons, converted cargo ships, and a few advanced prototypes. But humanity had one advantage no alien had ever faced: desperation mixed with creativity. In the past century, humans had survived wars, climate collapse, and near extinction. They had learned to adapt, to think in ways no other species dared. While others relied on perfect technology, humans relied on improvisation. The first wave of Zorkai ships entered low orbit. From the surface, people across the planet saw bright streaks cutting through the clouds like silver rain. Panic spread quickly. News feeds, social media, and emergency networks filled with reports of alien invasion. In New York, a boy stood on his rooftop and watched the sky. In Tokyo, a scientist whispered, "They're really here." In Karachi, a young engineer switched on his radio and said softly, "Then let's show them what Earth can do." Within hours, every nation was united under a single banner: Defend Earth. In space, the battle began. Zorkai warships opened fire, their plasma beams burning through orbital defenses. The first few human stations were destroyed instantly. But then something unexpected happened. The humans didn't retreat. Dozens of small ships appeared from the shadow of the moon, fast, unpredictable, using old mining thrusters and modified cargo hulls. They didn't fight by formation. They fought like swarms, darting between the massive alien vessels and firing in patterns that made no tactical sense. To the Zorkai, it was chaos. To humans, it was strategy. A human pilot named Captain Elisa Ward led one of the first squadrons. Her ship, the Valor's Wing, was a patched-together fighter barely holding itself together. As she locked onto an enemy cruiser, her co-pilot shouted, "Their shields are too strong." "Then we don't hit the shields," Elisa said, a grin spreading across her face. "We hit what powers them." Her ship dove straight toward the cruiser, dodging plasma blasts. At the last second, she released a cluster of EMP mines. The mines detonated near the vessel's energy vents, frying its shield generators. The massive ship flickered and then went dark. "Target down," Elisa shouted. Across the radio, cheers erupted. For the first time in galactic history, the Zorkai lost a ship. Admiral Zeltar watched in disbelief as reports flooded in. "A cruiser? Disabled? How?" "Their technology is centuries behind ours." But more reports followed, another ship destroyed, then two more. Each loss was small but humiliating. The Zorkai were winning the numbers, yet the humans refused to surrender. They fought like cornered wolves, fierce, clever, unpredictable. "Admiral," his science officer said, "their tactics do not follow logic. They use old satellites as decoys, debris as shields, and even turn destroyed ships into traps." Zeltar stared at the planet. "So that's it," he muttered. "They are not warriors. They are survivors." He underestimated Earth. That was his first mistake. On the ground, humanity watched the sky glow red and gold. News networks broadcast the battle live. Despite fear, there was pride in every human heart. The nations that once fought each other now fought side by side. Engineers, hackers, and soldiers worked together, finding ways to outsmart the alien invaders. In an underground base beneath the Sahara Desert, a team of scientists led by Dr. Leah Morgan developed a strange plan. They had been studying the Zorkai energy signatures. The aliens' ships drew power from a unique form of plasma that reacted violently when exposed to certain radio frequencies. "What if," Leah said, "we turn their own power against them?" Her idea was risky and untested, but there was no time to debate. Within hours, they built a massive transmitter network across the planet. The plan was to send a pulse strong enough to overload the Zorkai reactors. As the battle entered its third day, the sky was filled with wreckage. Cities were burning, but Earth still stood. The Zorkai fleet began its final assault, gathering above the Atlantic Ocean to strike all major continents at once. Admiral Zeltar gave the order, "End this. erased their defenses. The ships powered their main cannons. Energy built up like a second sun. Then, at that moment, the humans activated Leah's transmitter network. A deep hum spread through the atmosphere. For a second, nothing happened. Then the alien ships began to flicker. Their shields failed. Their weapons froze. One by one, their reactors overloaded. In orbit, the Voron's glory shuddered violently. "Admiral!" his officer cried. "Energy surge, reactor breach." Zeltar looked out the window. The entire fleet was vanishing, not destroyed, but pulled into a sudden rift of light as if swallowed by space itself. And then, silence, no explosion, no debris, just empty orbit. From the surface, people saw the sky clear. The alien ships were gone, completely erased from existence. General Hale stood at the command center, speechless. Did we win?" he whispered. No one could answer. There was no trace of the enemy. Their signals, their life signs, everything had vanished. Dr. Leah Morgan looked at the readings and frowned. "We didn't destroy them," she said softly. "We sent them somewhere else." No one knew where. But one thing was certain. Earth had survived the invincible fleet. For the first time in history, humanity had defeated an empire that had never known defeat. As the world celebrated, General Hale looked at the stars. He knew this was not the end. Somewhere out there, the Zorkai might still be alive, trapped, angry and learning. He whispered to himself, "If they ever come back, they'll find out again humans don't surrender." And far away, in a dark, unknown part of the galaxy, a flicker of light appeared. The Zorkai fleet re-emerged, damaged, disoriented, and facing something they had never seen before. Something not human, but waiting for them. The Zorkai fleet drifted in silence. Their once shining ships were scarred, their engines dead and their navigation systems useless. Stars around them looked strange, unfamiliar, and wrong. It was as if the galaxy itself had changed. Admiral Zeltar stood on the dark bridge of Voron's glory, staring into the void. His crew worked nervously, trying to understand what had happened. Their instruments showed no known constellations, no nearby planets, and no signals from the Dominion. They were completely alone. "Report," he ordered, his voice calm but heavy. "Admiral," said his science officer, "our hyperspace coordinates make no sense. We were pulled through a rift, but the readings suggest we are thousands, maybe millions of light years from the Dominion borders. Can we return?" "No, Admiral. The rift is gone. It closed the moment we came through." Zeltar gripped the railing. "Then we are stranded." The silence that followed was heavier than the void outside. Days passed. The fleet drifted slowly through this unknown region. Supplies were limited. Communication was unstable. Many ships had lost their reactors completely. The once proud warriors of the Zorkai were now afraid. They had faced every enemy in the galaxy and won, but they had never faced isolation. Zeltar called a meeting of his senior officers. Holograms flickered to life around the command table, showing tired, anxious faces from across the fleet. "We cannot panic," he said. "We will restore our systems and find a way home." One captain spoke, his scales pale. "Admiral, we should have destroyed Earth when we had the chance. This is punishment." Another added, "Perhaps they used forbidden technology, something beyond science." Zeltar raised a clawed hand. "Enough. We were defeated because we underestimated them. Do not seek superstition. Seek answers." He looked around the table. "The humans were clever, but not gods. If they can pull us into this place, we can find a way out." Still, he knew deep down, something about that disappearance was not natural. It felt as though they had been taken, not simply transported. Meanwhile, on Earth, the world was celebrating. Cities that once feared the sky were now filled with lights, songs, and cheers. For the first time in human history, every flag flew together. The United Earth Council declared the day as Victory Day. Dr. Leah Morgan became a hero overnight. Her energy pulse had saved the planet, but she didn't feel victorious. She sat in her lab staring at the data of the final pulse. Her assistant entered the room. "Doctor, everyone's waiting for your speech." "I'm not ready," Leah said quietly. "Why not?" "You saved humanity." She turned to him, eyes serious. "I didn't destroy them. I redirected them. The signal we sent didn't just overload their reactors, it created a dimensional fold. We sent them somewhere else, but we don't know where." The assistant looked confused. "So they could come back?" Leah nodded. Yes, or worse. Something could come through from wherever they are. Weeks later, strange readings began to appear on Earth's deep space scanners. Tiny signals, like echoes, were coming from beyond the known galaxy. The scientists called them ghost signatures. General Marcus Hale returned to active command to investigate. When he met Leah, she showed him the data. These signals, she said, pointing at the screen, match the Zorkai power pattern. They're alive, Hale frowned. How far away? Too far to reach. But if they rebuild, if they find a way back? Hale nodded slowly. Then we prepare for their return. He looked out the window at the stars. Next time they won't catch us unready. Back in the void, the Zorkai fleet finally found a planet, a gray, lifeless world orbiting a dying sun. They landed to repair and recover. Teams searched for resources, but the planet was strange. The air was heavy with static energy and the ground shimmered faintly as if alive. When engineers tried to mine it, their tools stopped working. Some machines simply vanished like smoke in the wind. Admiral, the science officer reported, this world is not stable. Space itself bends around it. Can it sustain life? For a short time. But I advise caution. Zeltar looked at the gray horizon. We have no choice. Begin repairs. While repairs continued, something began to change. The Zorkai started hearing whispers in their communication systems. Soft, distant voices speaking in strange patterns. At first they thought it was interference. But the whispers grew clearer. They were speaking. In Zorkai language, Zeltar listened to one of the recordings. The voice was calm, deep, and almost familiar. Admiral Zeltar, it said. You should not have come. He froze. Who sent this transmission? No source detected, said the technician. It's like it's coming from everywhere and nowhere. Moments later, the power across the fleet flickered. The ship's lights dimmed and the sensors went dark. Outside, the planet's surface began to glow with faint blue lines, forming strange symbols that spread across the ground like veins. The science officer shouted, Energy surge! It's reacting to our presence. Then, without warning, one of the ships vanished, just blinked out of existence. No explosion, no wreckage, nothing. Panic spread across the fleet. Many crew members begged to leave the planet immediately, but the engines were still offline. Zeltar ordered calm and demanded answers. What is this place? He asked. The science officer hesitated. I don't think this is a planet, Admiral. I think it's a construct, maybe a prison. Zeltar's eyes narrowed. A prison built by whom? Before the officer could answer, the holographic display in front of them changed. A new image appeared, a figure of light and shadow, humanoid in shape but shifting constantly. It spoke, its voice echoing in their minds. You are the ones who tried to invade the cradle of the firstborn. The firstborn? Zeltar asked, his voice low. Yes, the being replied. Humans. You called them primitive. But they are the children of the Ancient Ones, the race that seeded life across the stars. You attacked their home. The crew stared in disbelief. The being continued. They were not ready to know their past, but now. Your actions have awakened old powers. Zeltar tried to reason. We meant no disrespect. We seek only a way home. The being's voice softened. Home? You left your home behind when you chose conquest. You have been brought here to learn what it means to fear. And with that, the figure vanished. Over the next few days, strange phenomena plagued the fleet. Crew members reported seeing visions, shadows of Earth, of humans staring back at them from mirrors and screens. Navigation systems failed repeatedly. The stars shifted each night as if space itself was watching them. Some ships rebelled, attempting to break orbit and escape. But each one that left the planet's atmosphere simply disappeared. Zeltar's command was falling apart. His officers began whispering about curses and spirits. The once mighty warriors of the Dominion now trembled like children. Then one night the Admiral himself had a dream. He saw a blue planet, Earth, glowing brightly among the stars. He saw humans building vast ships and machines powered by the same energy that had trapped them. He saw a future where humanity no longer feared the stars but ruled them. When he woke, he was sweating. He knew then that humanity was changing. They were evolving faster than anyone expected. In the void above the strange world, the Voron's glory detected a sudden transmission, coming from the direction of the Milky Way. It was weak, but recognizable. Earth command to any listening unit. We are expanding. We are ready. The humans had begun their first deep space expedition. Zeltar listened in silence. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders. "Admiral?" his second-in-command asked softly. "What shall we do?" He looked out at the dying sun and then back at the faint signal from home. "We will survive," he said quietly. "And when we find the way back, we will see what these humans have become." But deep inside, for the first time in his life, Zeltar wasn't sure he wanted to. Earth had changed. 6 months had passed since the disappearance of the Zorkai fleet, and humanity had entered a new age. The nations of the world, once divided, were now united under the banner of the United Earth Alliance. Scientists worked day and night, studying the alien technology left behind from the short but fierce battle. From the ruins of the orbital war came a new industry, the Human Expansion Project. For the first time, mankind was building its own fleet capable of traveling beyond the solar system. Ships that once looked like dreams were now being assembled in Earth's orbit, powered by modified plasma reactors based on Dr. Leah Morgan's research. But Leah was not celebrating. She knew what others didn't. The Zorkai were not dead. Somewhere in a place beyond stars they were trapped, and waiting. Inside a vast orbital facility above the Pacific, General Marcus Hale stood beside Leah as they watched engineers fit the final panels on a massive ship, the UES Horizon. It was humanity's first interstellar command vessel, strong enough to travel between galaxies. "Hard to believe," Hale said quietly. "We're doing this because of them." Leah nodded. "They forced us to adapt. In trying to destroy us, they made us stronger." Hale turned to her. "Do you think they'll come back?" Leah hesitated before answering. "Yes, and when they do, they won't face the same Earth." Far beyond the galaxy, in the cold void of the unknown, the Zorkai fleet still floated near the gray world that had trapped them. Weeks had turned into months. Morale was falling. Food supplies were running out, and strange phenomena continued to haunt them. Every night, faint whispers echoed through the ship's communication systems. At first they thought it was interference. But soon the whispers formed words. "Do you understand now? Conquerors?" Sometimes the voices took the shape of memories. Family, friends, or comrades who had died long ago. The Zorkai began losing faith in their admiral. On the Varan's Glory, Zeltar sat in his command chair, staring at a screen filled with static. He had not slept in 3 days. His scales had lost their luster and his eyes were weary. His second-in-command, Varan, entered quietly. "Admiral, the crew is growing restless. Some want to abandon the fleet and scatter. Others talk of surrender. Surrender to what?" Zeltar asked bitterly. "To voices in the dark. Admiral, they believe this place is cursed. They think the humans sent us into the realm of the firstborn." Zeltar sighed. "The humans. Always the humans." He stood and looked out at the dying sun. "They call themselves survivors. Perhaps that is what makes them dangerous. They do not fear losing. They grow from it." That night, as he tried to rest, Zeltar dreamed again. He saw Earth, but brighter, different. Giant cities floated above the clouds. Ships of light sailed through the sky. He saw humans with strange symbols glowing on their skin, their eyes filled with wisdom and something ancient. Then he heard a voice, calm and strong. "They remember now, Admiral. The children of the firstborn are awakening." He tried to speak, but the dream dissolved into light. When he woke, alarms were sounding. "Admiral," Varan shouted as he entered the command room. "We're detecting energy spikes, planet-wide." The gray world below them was glowing again, just as before. The same blue symbols spread across the surface, forming massive rings that stretched for thousands of kilometers. But this time, something was rising from the center of the planet. A structure, enormous, made of crystal and metal, taller than mountains, emerged slowly from the ground. It pulsed with light as if alive. The science officer's voice trembled. "We're picking up power levels we've never seen before. It's reading our ship's systems." Zeltar clenched his jaw. "What does it want?" The officer hesitated. "Admiral, I think it's trying to communicate." A deep sound filled the air like a heartbeat echoing through space. Every ship's system flickered, and then a projection appeared in the command room, a tall figure of pure light. It was the same being Zeltar had seen before, but clearer now. Its form shifted between human and alien. "Admiral Zeltar," it said, its voice calm. "You have wandered far from home." Zeltar stood firm. "Who are you?" "I am the echo of the firstborn. My kind once guided the stars. The humans are our descendants. When you attacked their world, the balance was broken. Zeltar's tail twitched in anger. We do not answer to myths. We are the Dominion. The Echo tilted its head. Dominion? You conquered the weak, but you never understood the strong. You saw the humans as fragile, yet they carry within them the memory of creation itself. Varen whispered. Creation? The being continued. Your fleet was not destroyed. You were brought here to witness what you cannot conquer. The awakening of the firstborn legacy. Zeltar frowned. If you mean to destroy us, then do it. The being's voice softened. You still do not understand. We do not destroy. We awaken. Before anyone could react, beams of light shot from the massive structure toward the Zorkai ships. The energy passed through the hulls harmlessly, but every crew member felt something inside their minds, images, memories, emotions. They saw Earth being born. They saw ancient humans walking beneath alien skies guided by glowing beings. They saw stars seeded with life, galaxies shaped by unseen hands. When the light faded, silence filled the bridge. Some crew members fell to their knees, others wept quietly. Even Zeltar felt his heart tremble. What was that? He whispered. The science officer replied softly. I think they showed us the truth. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Leah Morgan was analyzing the faint signals from deep space. The readings were unlike anything she'd seen. Waves of energy, repeating at exact intervals, filled her screen. She adjusted the filters and gasped. The signals formed a pattern, shaped similar to human DNA. This can't be right, she muttered. She called General Hale immediately. General, the Zorkai are alive, but that's not all. The place they're in, it's connected to us. The signal is matching human biological codes. Hale looked at her in confusion. Are you saying that wherever they are, it's made from something human? Not human, Leah said slowly. Something older. Days passed. The signals grew stronger, and then one day a message came through, spoken in both Zorkai and human language. It said, The Echo has been awakened. The balance returns. No one knew what it meant, but every scientist on Earth felt a deep vibration, as if the planet itself had heard the message. At the same time, the Echo spoke again to Zeltar's fleet. Your world is lost to you now, Admiral, but you still have a choice. You can remain in this place and fade, or you can carry our message back to the stars. Zeltar's eyes narrowed. And what message is that? That the age of conquest is ending, the being replied. The children of the firstborn will rise and the galaxy will change. Then the light began to fade. The planet trembled violently. The great structure broke apart into shards of blue light that scattered into space. The Zorkai ships were lifted by invisible force, pulled upward toward another rift, like the one that had brought them here. Admiral, shouted Varen. The rift, it's opening again. Zeltar stood tall, feeling the ship shake. Then perhaps it's time to see what the galaxy has become. Moments later, the Zorkai fleet was gone, the rift closed, and silence returned to the dying world. In the Milky Way, new stars appeared suddenly near the edge of the galaxy. Space stations picked up readings of enormous energy signatures. Then out of the light, ships began to emerge, the Zorkai fleet scarred but alive. General Hale watched the readings come in with disbelief. They're back. Leah looked up from her console. But something's different. Their energy levels. They've changed. Their ships are no longer running on plasma. They're running on something else. What do you mean? She smiled faintly. They've learned something from the place they were trapped in. And I think they've changed as much as we have. In orbit around Earth, as alarms sounded and defenses powered up again, a transmission came from the returning fleet. It was Admiral Zeltar's voice. To the people of Earth, he said slowly, we came as conquerors. We return as witnesses. There are truths beyond war and powers beyond fear. You have awakened something that will change the stars themselves. Then the transmission ended. The fleet didn't attack. They simply stayed in orbit, silent as if waiting. Humanity watched and waited too. The war that began with fire and fear was now something else. A meeting of two species who had both seen the truth of creation. The Zorkai fleet hung in orbit above Earth like a silver shadow, quiet but impossible to ignore. It had been weeks since their return, and the humans were watching every movement, every pulse of light, every minor change in their formation. For the first time in centuries, the Zorkai were cautious, and humanity felt that unspoken tension in the air. On the ground, cities were alive with anticipation. Streets were filled not only with celebration but with determination. Humans had rebuilt fast, repairing orbital stations, enhancing defenses, and completing the first fleet of interstellar ships. The UES Horizon, humanity's flagship, now glinted in the sun above the Pacific, fully armed and ready, but not for war. Leah Morgan walked along the command deck with General Marcus Hale. The room hummed with energy, and holographic displays tracked every ship in orbit. "They aren't attacking," Hale said, shaking his head. "Not yet," Leah nodded. "No, but they're learning. The place they were trapped in, it changed them. They are no longer conquerors in the same way. They've seen the truth humanity carries, the firstborn legacy." Hale frowned. "Legacy? You mean the thing they showed us from the rift?" "Yes," Leah replied. "Humans carry something ancient inside them. It's not just survival instinct, it's memory of creation itself. And the Zorkai know it now." Meanwhile, aboard the Voron's Glory, Admiral Zeltar was staring at Earth, silent, almost reverent. His fleet had been battered and broken, but no longer afraid. Something had shifted. The humans were no longer mere primitives to conquer. They were equals in power, ingenuity, and spirit. His second-in-command, Varan, approached quietly. "Admiral, the humans, they have grown. Their fleet is stronger. Their defenses are more than what we expected." Zeltar nodded slowly. "Yes, and we must respect that. We cannot simply destroy them. We will observe. We will learn. But why not strike now?" Varan asked. "We could finish them before they grow stronger." Zeltar's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light of the bridge. "Because if we do, we fail to understand them. And if we understand them, perhaps we can finally see the truth of our place in the galaxy." Back on Earth, the United Earth Council had convened a historic meeting. Delegates from every nation, now united in purpose, were seated in the grand hall of the rebuilt Geneva Command Center. They had received the Zorkai transmission, the first one after their fleet returned, and it had been clear. The aliens came as witnesses, not conquerors. "This is unprecedented," Hale said. "They have power beyond our comprehension, and yet they're holding back." "What do they want?" Leah stepped forward. "They are learning. They are experiencing something that humans have always known: adaptation, creativity, and survival against impossible odds. They are realizing that humanity cannot be controlled through force alone." A young delegate asked, "Does this mean peace?" Leah hesitated. "Perhaps. But it is not peace that brought us here, it is understanding. They will test us. They will observe. And in time, we will grow stronger, together or in opposition. But if we fail not because of their power, but because of our own hesitation." High above, in orbit, the Zorkai fleet continued to watch Earth. They scanned the planet's surface, observing humanity's rebuilding efforts. Farms and cities thrived simultaneously. Energy grids hummed with new power, and construction of new ships proceeded faster than any of them could have imagined. Zeltar made a decision. "Prepare a small landing party. Take no weapons. We are not here to fight. We are here to witness and perhaps to learn." Varan frowned. "Landing without weapons?" "Admiral, the humans, they will see our intent," Zeltar interrupted. "And if they understand it, we may gain knowledge that will surpass even conquest." On the surface, the landing of the Zorkai ships caused waves of excitement and fear. Their massive forms cast long shadows over cities, and crowds gathered at safe distances, eyes wide with awe. Earth's fleet readied its defenses, but Hale and Leah insisted on caution. Leah turned to the assembly of scientists and engineers. "They are not attacking. We must approach this carefully. They are testing us, yes, but so are we testing ourselves. This is an opportunity we cannot waste." As the Zorkai ships descended, humans observed them closely. They noted every maneuver, every sound, and the way energy flowed across their hulls. The ships were enormous, elegant, and intimidating, but the humans felt no fear this time. They had faced the impossible and survived. When the first Zorkai stepped onto Earth soil, the world held its collective breath. Admiral Zeltar emerged, tall and commanding. His silver scales reflected the sunlight, and his eyes were deep pools of intelligence and experience. But he carried no weapons, no signs of aggression. Hale approached him cautiously. "Admiral Zeltar, I am General Marcus Hale, representing the United Earth Alliance. Welcome, I think." Zeltar inclined his head slightly. "We come not as enemies, but as observers." We wish to learn and perhaps to teach. Leah stepped forward. Then you will see that humans are more than they appear. Our strength is not just technology, it is creativity, resilience, and unity. Zeltar's eyes softened, a hint of curiosity showing. Then let us begin. Over the following weeks, humans and Zorkai worked together cautiously. Small teams were formed, combining the ingenuity of humans with the advanced technology of the Zorkai. Leah demonstrated the power of their energy pulse systems, showing the aliens how humans could manipulate energy patterns in ways they had never imagined. Engineers marveled at the speed with which humans adapted alien tech, integrating it with Earth systems. Meanwhile, humans studied the Zorkai ships and their advanced propulsion systems. Even simple modifications allowed human engineers to understand aspects of hyperdrive technology. What is impressive, Varen admitted quietly to Zeltar, is that they are learning faster than we expected. Zeltar nodded. Humans do not simply react. They innovate. That is why they survived where others failed. As the cooperation continued, small victories for humanity began to accumulate. Prototype ships powered by hybrid Earth-Zorkai technology successfully navigated low orbit and even entered short hyperspace jumps. Communication networks expanded to near-instantaneous interstellar links. Even more impressive, humans discovered methods to amplify their own DNA energy patterns, the subtle echoes of the firstborn, through their ship's reactors. This gave their fleet unique abilities: faster energy transfer, stronger shields, and enhanced adaptive weapon systems. Leah watched in awe as the UES Horizon activated a new energy pulse generator. If this works, she whispered, we are no longer just defending. We can project power across the stars, Hale smiled, and perhaps deter any invaders before they even arrive. Meanwhile, Zeltar observed quietly. The humans were no longer the fragile creatures who had nearly been conquered. They were strong, united, and unafraid. He began to respect them, not as enemies, but as equals. He called Varen to his side. They have changed us too. I see it in the eyes of my crew. The humans have shown us courage, resilience, and creativity, things that no conqueror can claim. Varen nodded. Do you think we underestimated them? Zeltar's gaze returned to Earth's horizon. Not underestimated. We simply did not understand. Now we do. In a quiet moment, Leah and Zeltar met on neutral ground. They spoke without translators. The subtle energy from the firstborn allowed them to communicate in ways beyond words. You have seen humans survive the impossible, Leah said. What do you think now? Zeltar paused. I think conquest is not always the path to greatness. The humans have taught me that strength is not in fear or weapons. It is in spirit and ingenuity. Leah smiled faintly. Then perhaps the galaxy can learn from this too. Zeltar bowed slightly. Perhaps it will. From orbit, Hale watched the fleets of both humans and Zorkai working together. Humanity had survived not by superior technology, not by luck, but by heart, courage, and unity. He spoke to Leah quietly. We faced an empire and survived. But this is more than survival. This is the start of something bigger. Leah nodded. The galaxy is watching, General. And now we will show it what humans can achieve. Above them, the sun rose over Earth, bathing the planet in golden light. The Zorkai fleet reflected that light like silver rivers in the sky. For the first time, there was no fear. Only hope and the promise of a new dawn.